This concept of liberty on the coins was unique to the United States. When they were endeavoring to come up with a design for the new coins that they were going to start printing in the mint, they didn't know exactly what image to put on it. And many of the leaders in Congress and indeed Washington himself were opposed to putting any kind of image of a politician or even Washington himself on the coins. They considered the practice to be similar to the monarchies that they had just left behind in England. They didn't want their image on the coins. The image of liberty as a woman fighting for the rights of the people in the country was common to both the United States and to France, both of which had fought against Great Britain in the Revolutionary War. This image is what they picked to put on their coins. So from that point forward, in the early 1700s even, we begin to see the image of liberty being represented on the coins, and throughout the 1800s. I have some examples of that just from different times during the 1800s. I'll just grab a few of them and hold them up to the camera here. Here's liberty on a large penny, or on a large 1-cent piece from 1855. Here's one from 1809. This is a half-cent. I know you can't see it very well on the camera, but we'll add these in later. 1808, liberty. I showed this one earlier. This was a 50-cent piece. That one's from 1836. One of the things that you see happen when they minted much of this coinage was they used the same image across all denominations. For instance, in the 1850s they had liberty in a seated position. That was a 50-cent piece, but here's the 25-cent piece. Same image. And the dime. Same image. This happened well up into the early 1900s. There was a denomination called the Barber denomination, which was named after Charles Barber, who was the chief engraver at the time. In the late 1800s into the early 1900s, they used the Barber image on the 50-cent piece, on the quarter, and on the dime. What's the point of all of that? The point is that coins were not to be a novelty. They didn't use coins as ways of commemorating different things in the country. The coinage was there for people every time they spent their money to be reminded of the liberty that they had to even have the money. Again, not a liberty granted by a king or by a monarch, a liberty granted by the nation in which they lived, a liberty granted by the fact that they lived in a free state that was free of the tyranny of having to answer to and pay taxes to and have to go back to a monarch. The people were governed by the people, governed by themselves. And the coins that they used to pay their bills, to save their money, to prepare for their children's future, all of those coins represented the liberty that they had been given in order to live in this country. In the next segments, we're going to talk a little bit about what causes a change, what caused a change in the history of the country where the coins started to change then, and we start seeing other images and other things occurring on the coins.